All right, number 11. What is the y-intercept of an equation of the line that passes through this point and is perpendicular to this equation? So we're looking for the y-intercept. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the original slope. So the original slope is -4. Now we need the perpendicular slope. So remember, the perpendicular slope is the opposite reciprocal. So if it's the opposite reciprocal, that means the opposite sign, and we're going to flip it. So that negative is going to turn into a positive, and then we're going to make it 1/4. So we're going to use the x and the y from the point, and we're going to plug it into y equals mx plus b in order to find our b value. So we're going to take the y, we're going to plug it into the y spot, we're going to take the x, plug into the x spot, and the perpendicular slope, we're going to plug in the slope spot. So my y is -1, my perpendicular slope is 1/4, my x is 4, and we're going to solve for b. That's what we're trying to find, is that y-intercept. So we have 1 times 4 is 4, divided by 4 is going to be 1. So that's going to be plus b. Now we need to solve for b, so we're going to subtract 1, and -1 minus 1 is going to give me -2. So my answer here would have been -2. So this graph shows for number 12 that the amount of Michael's pay based on a 40-hour work week, plus he gets commission for sales, so he earns more money for the more things he sells. What is the best explanation for the y-intercept? So remember, the y-intercept is the initial value. So if it's the initial value, we're looking for this value right here. So we know that the y-intercept is 100, but 100 in terms of what? So remember that we're talking about sales, okay? So if we're talking about how much he sells, that means he hasn't sold anything. That's the initial amount, how much he gets paid without selling anything. So A says his paycheck will be $0 if he makes $100 in sales. So technically that's incorrect, because $100 in sales would be right here, and that's not the y-intercept. Michael's paycheck will be $100 when he makes no sales. So no sales is what we're looking for. That would be initial value, so that would be B. Now 13. 13 says which of the following graphs is correct. So the first thing I'm going to look at is my y-intercept. So if I look at my y-intercept, I'm looking for a y-intercept of 4. So this A has a y-intercept of 4. This one has a y-intercept of -4, so we're going to cross out C. Then we have a y-intercept here of 6, so we're going to cross out B. And this one has a y-intercept of 4. So the next thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at my slope. My slope is positive. So since it's positive, it should be going up in a positive direction. So this one is going up in a positive direction. This one's going down in that direction. So my correct answer here is going to be A. All right, number 14. It says the graph below represents the amount that Samira pays for a cell phone plus a monthly fee. So the question here is, what is the y-intercept? So remember, y-intercept is the initial value. So when I look at my y-intercept here, I see that my initial value is 20. So that's how much she's going to pay up front. So A says her monthly fee is $0, so that's not correct. Her rate per minute is 40 cents, so that's actually going to be the slope. So per minute is the slope. That's not right. So her monthly fee is $20, or her rate per minute is 20 cents. That's the slope again. So based off of what we're looking at, she's going to pay a one-time fee of $20, which is C. All right, so the graph below shows a salesperson's earnings, which are basically amount of sales. So what represents the earnings per thousands of dollars? So the key here for this word is per. That's going to be your repeating amount. So if we're talking about per and we're repeating every single time, then that's going to be your slope. All right, so for 16. So for 16, we have a y-intercept at -7. So we can go ahead and say that this is positive, so that's wrong. And D is positive, so that's wrong. So then we come and we look at B and C. So this one right here has a positive slope. This one has a negative slope. So my graph is going down, so it should be negative, and I can verify that by picking 2 points. So if I pick 2 points, I can see that I'm going down and to the right. So down 1 and then write 3, which would make your correct answer C. So number 17, we're trying to find the x and y-intercept. So remember, to find the x-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for y. So for my x-intercept, we're going to say negative 4x plus 2 times 0 equals 24. So those cancel. So I have negative 4x equals 24, and then I'm going to divide by negative 4, and my x-intercept is at negative 6. So I can go ahead and see that the only one has an x-intercept at negative 6 is A, but I can always test the y-intercept as well. And that means I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So that's going to be 2y equals 24. So that's going to give me 12 when I divide. So y equals 12. All right, number 18. So number 18 is asking about parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So if I look at number 1 is not parallel or perpendicular, so that's neither. Number 2 has that right angle, so that's going to be perpendicular. And then pair 3 is going to be parallel. So you're looking for the answer choice that says that. So number 1 is neither, that's correct. Number 2 is perpendicular, that's correct. Number 3 is parallel, that's correct. So the correct answer here is A. And if you had read the other ones, you would see that this is correct for pair 1, but pair 2 is not parallel, so that wouldn't work. So you're just comparing which ones were identified correctly. All right, number 19. Number 19 says, at a car rental company, you must pay a flat rate of $120 plus $18 per day. Write a linear equation to represent the total cost, and then you're going to figure out 2 weeks. But the key here is it says per day. So my slope is 18, and my y-intercept is 120. So I have y equals 18x plus 120. But it's per day, so there's 7 days in a week, so 7 times 2 is going to give me 14. So I'm going to plug 14 in for x, and that's going to give me my problem that I need to multiply. So if I multiply this out, so we have 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 gives me 7. Placeholder, 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 1 is 2. So if I add those together, that's going to give me we have 342. Excuse me, 242. Lord, I can't. Sorry, guys. So we have 252. Sorry about that. Plus 120 that we need to add to it. So that's going to give me $372. So the answer is C. All right, so this one says which equation of the line is parallel to this graph. So I'm going to pull up Desmos, and all you're going to do here is look at it graphically. All right, so if I'm looking, I'm going to put my original in. So I have 2x minus 3y, and that's going to equal 17. And then I'm just going to check my answer. So y equals 2 divided by 3, x minus 7 divided by 3. And I can see that that is parallel, and therefore my correct answer is A. If I had tried the other ones, you would have potentially seen, so like this one would have been negative, and this was plus 5. You would have seen that that's not parallel, that's not perpendicular either, but they just want a parallel. All right, so the next one, it says Farmville Middle wants to make $4,410 from the yearbooks. Printed yearbooks cost $70, digital yearbooks cost $30. So that's the reason we have 70 with X, 30 with Y. They want the X-Intercept. So we're going to plug in 0 for Y here. So we have 70X plus 30 times 0 equals 4410. So I'm going to cross that out. So that gives me 70x equals 4410 and divide by 70. All right. So I have 4410 divided by 70, and x equals 63. Please be careful, because if you notice, we have two 63s. This one's x, this was y. We're looking for the x-intercept, so that's A. All right, so for 22, it says, for working 3 hours, Carmen earns $33 for 5 hours and earns 3 hours is $33 and 5 hours is $55. So what is your slope? So if I'm looking here, this is X, this is Y. We have hours to dollars. So we have 3 hours is 33, 5 hours is 55. Now you can do your change in Y over change of X. So this is what, 2, and then if I subtract these, I have 22. So the change in Y over the change in X is going to be 22 over 2, which is $11 per hour. So be careful here. So $11 per hour versus 11 hours per dollar. So we're going to do correctly, which is C. All right, 23. A video store has DVDs for $4.75 and video games for $2.50. Write an equation that represents the DVDs. So DVDs is D. So D should be $4.75. And video games is G, which is $2.50. So we got to make sure those match up. And it's a total of 12. Well, I can go and get rid of A because the total they have incorrectly. So for this one, it says $4.50 for G. So G is the video games. That should be $2.50. Then D has an equal sign on the opposite sides. That's not right. So the only one that has the $4.50 for the DVDs and the $2.50 for the games is $12, is C. And then finally, X and Y-intercepts again. So this one should be easy enough because it's in slope-intercept form. So remember, slope-intercept form is Y equals mx plus b. So my Y-intercept is going to be my b value. So I can go ahead and say, okay, Y-intercept that of 15, the only one that doesn't have is C. So we're going to mark that out. So to find the X-intercept, we're still going to plug in 0 for Y. So 0 for Y. So this is going to be 0 equals negative 3x plus 15. So we're going to solve for x here. So we're going to subtract 15. So that's going to give me negative 15 equals negative 3x. And then I'm going to divide by negative 3. And then once I do that, negative 15 divided by negative 3 is positive 5, which would make the correct answer D. All right, number 25. Cameron is designing a calendar for a fundraiser. The cost of printing is $500 plus $250 per calendar. What is the meaning of the Y-intercept? So remember, Y-intercept is the initial value. So if we think about this, the initial value in this problem is the cost of printing because she's going to have to pay $500 up front. So A says dollars per calendar. That's the slope. We don't want the slope. We want the Y-intercept, so that's gone. The total amount earned for the fundraiser, that's not the initial value because that's how much you're going to earn in the end. The initial fee to print, so the initial fee is that initial value, which is C. All right, 26, the slope of this line. Now remember, this line right here is a horizontal line. So we learned acronyms. We learned HOI and we learned BUCS. Well, this is a HOI problem because it's horizontal. So the graph asks me what is the slope. So remember that when you're talking about the slope is that middle piece. So the slope for a horizontal line is 0.